If you're going to work on your business and not in your business, you have to have the right people in the right chairs, doing the right things in the right systems and processes to execute.
Are they better than everyone else on the team? Him and Josh are about the same level, but Mike's still a little better and Susie's a little less. He'd fit in the middle. And he's like, I don't hire anybody unless they elevate the entire team. And I was like, holy shit, dude.
You need to be willing to invest your time or your money in your people to give them the opportunity to do the best that they can be. And then it's up to them, because if you win the day, you win the week. You win the week, you win the month. And you know how the saying goes. And
I love that. If you're not training your team on how to pivot, how to have these conversations, to look at the fucking computer and say, hey, loan is X, whole life policies are Y, like Z ain't happening, right? Hey guys, what's up? It's Coach Carroll. Welcome to another episode of the Sales Factory. Today, I got my man Zach from Ignite Agency Training in the building, in the Sales Factory. You guys know I've been chopping it up all day with these January episodes. Appreciate you guys tuning in, subscribing, liking, sharing, commenting, telling your friends, your family, hell, tell your dog about it. It doesn't matter. What gets us in front of more people, help you guys grow your business. We're back with some more insurance content for you guys. This dude's a pretty interesting cat I think you're going to like this a lot. Was on the agency side, went into leadership for a bit, and now is like full-blown onto training. So, Zach, my man, welcome to the Sales Factory.
thanks, TJ. Excited to be here and excited to chat a little bit today.
Yeah, man, for sure. How do you pronounce your last name? I didn't want to butcher it on the intro.
Sabin, not related to Nick, but yeah, Sabin, S-A-B-I-N. Yep.
I was gonna try it. I was like, let's just stick with Zach from the end at the Ignite Agency. I'll fix it after the intro. So Zach Sabin, we connected like on social, I think. And so you saw my content. I think I saw maybe your stuff back and forth. And so that's how we got here. Also, my listeners are very aware that we work with some of the top State Farm farmers and Allstate agents all across the U.S. with our new AI platform, Alley and Carroll Media. But I was excited to have you on today because I think, as we're gaining more listeners, I've got guys from 16-year-old kids starting a mowing business to, white collar guys that have, $50 million books of business. I think we can find some really good nuggets because, you help people grow their agencies, obviously, but I got to guess that some of that includes sales training, right? I would think that's something in there, right? Because like in the insurance space, you're not building stuff, right? So I don't think there's like operational here, buy this new piece of equipment, right? It's very much people oriented. It's a people business. So I was excited to talk to you a little bit about that. You were one of the top ranked Michigan agents, right? And one of the top ranked agents. So let's just go ahead and lay down some groundwork for the people that are listening so they know exactly who you are and kind of share a little bit of that story that you're sharing with me before we went live on air.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So my entrance into the insurance industry is similar to most. I was looking to get out of retail management, had no sales background, no business background, and was attracted to the opportunity because I was going to be paid based off of how hard I worked and how good I got at the job. That was kind of the thing that intrigued me the most. So I actually started working as a sales team member for an agent in East Lansing, Michigan. This would have been 2009. And then I fell in love with the business. I fell in love with the ability to help people, to make a true impact in the lives of people, educate and advise them on, all of the potential risks and the financial consequences that come from that. And so I decided that I wanted to be an agent. And so that was kind of the main goal that I had set for myself, and went through the process of agency, and became a State Farm agent back in August of 2012. For listeners out there, they'll appreciate this. I started scratch. So I started new market, had no customers day one. And, it was all about coming in every day and getting after it. And so had a ton of fun. I was an agent for 4 years. And during that time, I had grown and scaled my book to a size where I had 8 full-time employees. And I am a trainer and coach at heart. That was what I went to school for. I wanted to be in education. And so I love it. But as a business owner, you wear so many hats. You know this, and the business owners out there know this. It's hard to be everything to everyone. And one of my core beliefs as a leader is you either need to be willing to invest your time or your money in your people to give them the opportunity to do the best that they can be.
Right.
And then it's up to them to take advantage of the opportunity. And so I actually went out and looked for some help to train my team and found a system that I used for a couple of years. And that's where what I now call Ignite Agency Training, that's where that idea first came about. And we got a ton of value out of it, but my journey led me into leadership. I wanted to have a bigger impact on the
Mm.
organization. And so we had a ton of fun as an agent. Like you mentioned, we ended up being in the top 10 in the state and moved into leadership and took over the Lansing, Michigan territory in August of 2016 and was able to work with a great group. I left with 47 agents,
Wow.
and we had a ton of fun there too. And got to a point in my career where I was considering, what's the next step for me in my career? And I was looking at leadership in State Farm and moving up the ranks that way. I was looking at remaining a sales leader, and the allure to me about moving up in any organization is the ability to have a bigger impact on the workforce. And in the State Farm and insurance world, it's the agency force. So that was attractive. What I didn't want to give up was the ability to coach and work with agents. And so after 7 years and going from kind of the bottom of the middle of our ranking in our little 4-state region to in the top 20 in territories in the entire company, decided to give it all up to go out on my own and start Ignite Agency Training. And the goal is to help agents and team members get better.
Yeah,
1%
man.
better every day. The power of the compound effect is something that I truly believe in, and it's kind of my why for what I'm doing now. So.
I love it, man. So when did you start Ignite agency training?
Yeah, so we launched October 2nd of 2024. So it's been just over a year,
Nice.
and we're growing every month and making an impact on agencies from coast to coast all over the country. We're in 40 states, just hit 200 agencies and over 1,600 users on the system. So
Dang, man. You're crushing it, dude.
we're trying to help as many people as possible and give people what they need to grow and develop and help more people and do it in a way that's not old school. It's not sleazy. It's not salesy. It's a conversation. It's consultative and it's about asking really good questions to help the customer understand what's in their best interest, because a lot of times they come in with their guard up. As you know, they're worried we're gonna sell them something they don't need, that they don't
Yeah.
want or they can't afford, and that's just gonna do nothing but bring on sales friction and
Yeah.
cause the process to be way harder than it needs to be, and causes the customer to have buyer's remorse and leads to all kinds of challenges. So.
Yeah. And did I get this timeline right? Like you were only it only took you 3 years to get appointed. So like from a team to coming in team member 2009 to like opening your office 2012.
Yeah, so
That's pretty
2009
quick, right?
in May and yeah, in August of 2012. So
Yeah.
so it
So
was
congrats, just
a
a hair over 3 years. So did you go through the aspirant program or what was the like? Did you come in
yeah.
knowing that you wanted to be an agent? Like that's fast, dude.
Yeah, I had no idea whether I wanted to be an agent. A State Farm agent in Royal Oak. He's got two offices now. Mike Lancy. He and I played baseball together in college. Grew up playing baseball against each other, and he was working for an agent in East Lansing, and him and I were having a conversation, and he had mentioned how well he was doing as a team member, and like I said, I'd worked in retail management throughout college and right after college, and was getting paid the same as everybody else, and had one of the best stores in the district, and kind of rubbed me the wrong way that I was making what everybody else was making and working harder. And so jumped in with that being the kind of goal, and then just wanted to be a business owner. I didn't,
Yeah.
have that itch growing up. I didn't go to school for business, but forging your own path, controlling, your world and controlling, what your destiny and future looks like, is just, it's something that I'm very passionate about. And so made the decision, I'm going to be a State Farm agent, and did everything that I could as fast as I could to give myself an opportunity to be selected. And luckily, either nobody else wanted a new market agency or I was the best one for the time, but either way, I got my shot. So.
Yeah, man. I always have a different level of respect for the dudes that start scratch and the ladies, because I've met some ladies out there that go scratch too.
Mhm.
Not having a book of business to come in on and like having to just, get it out the mud, as Kevin Gates says. So
Yeah.
I love it, man. That's cool. And so 8 employees, what was maybe can you share with us like as you're building that that office and you're hiring these people and you're training these people, what was a challenge, man, as you like got to 8 people and you're training them? Obviously business isn't smooth selling, and
Sure.
I always tell, any student that I'm talking to, it's like, be sure to find the wizard behind the curtain, right? Because like at face value, it's really cool, but there's always some pain points. I call it the Lieutenant Dan method, right? Like Lieutenant Dan from
Mm.
Forrest Gump, like the green
Yeah.
legs. Like I want to go to Lieutenant Dan and be like, hey, and that field full of landmines out there, like where did you step? So as a business owner, I make sure I don't step. So like, what was maybe a Lieutenant Dan moment that you can share with us to make sure that if there's a young hustler listening today, they don't make that same mistake?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and it immediately came to mind. And for me as a new business owner, a new leader, leading my own team for the first time, I didn't want to be command and control. I wanted to foster an environment where my team felt like they had the autonomy to operate. And when you start, you go through internship, they talk about the importance of accountability, they talk about the importance of data and tracking. And I built an accountability system that wasn't rigid. It was a point-based system, and it gave my team the opportunity to win the day. Because if you
Hmm.
win the day, you win the week. You win the week, you win the
Yeah.
month. And
Yep.
you know how the saying goes. And
I love that.
we got off to a great start, and we're crushing it. We were in the first 3 months, I think we were in the top 10 in our territory and in pretty much every line. And we're rocking and rolling. And as a naive leader, I said, all right, we know how to do what we need to do every day. We don't need to complete the 50 points to success. We'll just continue to do what we've been doing. And I kid you not, within a week or 2 weeks, our activity tanked. And now I'm like, what did I do? Is it my leads? Is it, me? Like, what's going on? Why did I implode this thing? We were working so well. And I pulled my team in and said, what is happening? What happened? And they came to me and said, we need the scoreboard. We need the accountability. We need to know what to do to win the day because, every business, especially in a sales environment, is controlled chaos. There is a
Yeah.
whirlwind that happens as soon as 9 a.m. hits, the phones start ringing, we start dialing the phone, and it's very easy to lose sight of the important and focus on the urgent. And that's what happened with my team. They quickly forgot about the important items, the calls, the quotes, the life conversations, the referral conversations, and got sucked into the whirlwind of the urgent, the customer calls, and the things that they were being asked to complete. And it was like clockwork. We plugged it back in. They started, having that daily cadence of accountability, and we got back to where we were. And so I spent the better part of my time as an agent warning everybody about the the throes of pulling out of the accountability piece and the importance of having something in place, and just have taken that with me ever since.
Yeah. I think a lot of times, man, entrepreneurs are like, well, I don't want to micromanage my team. And to a certain extent, they have to have these functions in place that will micromanage them if you don't want to personally micromanage them, right? Because like we operate on a scorecard as well, and it's like, I can look at the scorecard and have my questions answered before I go to the team member. And right, it's like, yeah, I can go to the team member every single day and be like, hey, did you hit your dials? Or I can just look at the scorecard and
Mhm.
then I know, right? And so I also I love this. I wrote this down. It's one of my coachisms, WGMGD. What gets measured gets done, right? And
Yep.
so if you have a scoreboard, if you have scorecards or some type of tracking mechanism to measure progress, to measure output, that's what gets done. And if
Yeah.
and I think you just explained to us a prime example of when you stop measuring it. It stops getting done, right? And
$100%.
not to the detriment of the team. They weren't like, oh look, he's not watching us on this anymore. Fuck it, I'm not gonna do that, right? It's not that. It's not like they consciously, alertly say like, fuck this, I'm not doing it anymore. It's just it is now becomes their job becomes reactionary. And I had a coach tell me one time. He said, DJ, the challenge you're having right now is you're expecting your team to set their priorities. And it takes
Hmm.
a very, very high level person to be able to prioritize, right? There is like you can do task, you can create list of tasks to do, and then you can prioritize the list of tasks. And so like I wrote this down because I want to get your take on like hiring A players versus B's and C's and
Yeah.
coach them and train them up. Because you mentioned you like you want to just help people be the best they can be. When you hire a C-level player that is just a task management person, and then now all of a sudden they're really good at doing tasks, and you're like, oh, well, then here, let me give you 10 tasks because you should just be able to prioritize and figure and make a list and figure out what you need to do. They can't, man. Like it's,
No.
you're literally setting those people up for failure. And a lot of times, if you've fostered a culture where people do believe in themselves and they do want to achieve and they want to go chase down big goals, they'll still run off of that cliff, right? Like you're
Yep.
setting them up for failure. So talk to me a little bit about like hiring A players, B players, C players, because Hormozi put out a video I watched a couple of weeks ago where he was talking about these people and where a lot of times business owners they'll skimp and you said you either got to allocate some time or allocate some budget to
Money.
train your team members, right? What about if we go up one level and allocate more money for less people, right? Because like a lot of times it's like, well, let me just find this like $12 an hour person, right? And like we've seen this onslaught with VAs, right? Where it's like, oh
Yeah.
shit, I can hire somebody for $3 an hour. It's like, yeah, and most of the time, or you get $3 an hour work, right? And so, talk to me a little bit about that, like maybe experiences you had with your 8 team members, but then also, I mean, if you're working with 200 agencies, you probably see this a lot. You get a very diverse group of people you get to coach and train.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a great question, and I know he's been on the show, so I'm gonna plug him here. So Al Shattuck is one of my former
Yeah,
agents on my team, good friend of mine, and he talks about capacity. He talks about complacency kills, and I agree with him around the capacity piece in terms of you need to maximize the capacity of the people on your team, and you can get more out of A players with fewer of them and save money, time, and headache than hiring a bunch of B players at a lower price point. And so that's
yeah,
the struggle I see a lot of times is business owners in general are scared to invest what it's going to take to get a true A player.
yeah,
But the opportunity cost is what they're missing out on because you set the direction and they manage themselves versus the B players and the C players where you do need to micromanage it, in an environment where, I had 8 employees, 4 of them were sales. I had one service person. I had a couple telemarketers, but the 4 salespeople, there were 2 what I would quantify as A players and 2 that I would quantify as kind of B players. And I didn't have to have nearly as many conversations with the A players as I did the B players. And that was when I learned this motto of, always be looking to replace your worst performing team member because we
yeah,
get complacent, we get comfortable with who's on our team, we're generating the results we want. But then we stagnate and we get used to what we have and forget what we could get. And so if you can continually upgrade the quality of the people that are working on your team, as a business owner, as a leader, everything else gets easier. And now you're managing systems, you're managing processes instead of managing people. And that's the ultimate goal. If you're going to work on your business and not in your business, you have to have the right people in the right chairs doing the right things in the right systems and processes to execute.
yeah. I love that. Always be looking to, I'm writing this down. So if you guys want the show notes, you can go to coachcarroll.com and there's a spot where you can put in your email to send you these show notes I'm taking. Always be looking to replace, did you say the worst person on the
The
team?
lowest performing team member. Yep.
Yeah.
Whoever is in that bottom row. And at the end of the day, if they're
Lowest performing team member if this is an HR conversation. Worst person on the
worst
team if you
person,
have a
yeah.
conversation.
Yeah. Who's the person you can cut? And
Yeah.
the goal is to get to a spot where your worst person is still a profit center. They're
Yeah.
making the agency and the business money, regardless of the industry. They're making you money. And now you're in a position of strength where they're making me money and they're driving me crazy. So I'm going to
Yeah.
upgrade and I'm going to move them out.
I heard Hormozi, he's got it's a long ass video. He's been putting out some long content. I really enjoy it
Yeah.
though. Dude's sharp. I met him back in 2016 at a ClickFunnels event. Um, and the listeners have heard me tell the story before, but he was in the hallway with Alex Charfin, which is less notable, but it's just as sharp of a guy. I highly recommend you guys look him up online. But they were talking, and Hormozi had, I don't know, 6 or 7 gyms or whatever. They were only in
Mhm.
like California. And he told Charvin, he's like, yeah, I've got this like gym blueprint. I'm going to go scale it all across, like, I'm build all these gyms. And Alex Sharpman was like, that's the dumbest idea I've ever heard. You have the system, just go sell the system to all the gyms that are already out there. And then
Mm.
that's what was later would
Gym
become
launch.
Gym
Yeah.
Launch, and that he sold for millions and millions of dollars. So it's cool just because like I know the guy, like, I met him in person like way back before he blew up. And so like he's just a super sharp guy. But he talks about when he hires people, he says, cool, they check all these boxes, their predictive index or their McQuaig, their personality assessment, it fits what we're looking for. And they aced all the interviews and they've got the prerequisites. Are they better than everyone else on the team?
Mm.
And he said he's turned down hiring people because it's like, no, he's like, him and Josh are about the same level, but Mike's still a little better and Susie's a little less. He'd fit in the middle. And he's like, I don't hire anybody unless they elevate the entire team. And I was like, holy shit, dude, talk about it.
Yeah.
Like that's a crazy checkpoint to put in your hiring process. But I can even just tell the listeners, man, is like, I've, no, coming from easy pro mowing grass when I started my first business to where we are now, like I've had alcoholics that work for me for $9 an hour,
Yeah.
right? Running a weed eater to like now, like, I mean, some of the people on our team, they're 65, 75, $85 an hour team members, but like the work that they put out and the direction, I should call them hunting dogs. They don't, not all of them do sales, but like a hunting dog is like, you just point him in the direction, let him go. And like, he'll go find it. You don't have to be like, hey, the squirrel's in the third tree on the left. Like he's like, bro, I got it. I'll find the squirrel. Right. And so it's, the same thing with team members. I think a lot of people, they shortchange themselves, and a lot of this stuff too, man, like is difficult. Like, you come from being like an employee to go and being a business owner. Well, guess what? When you're an employee, very, very few times are you just like, damn, there's a whole lot of money left at the end of the month. No, what ends up happening is
Yeah.
there's a whole lot of month left at the end of the money, right? And so
Hmm.
we take that employee mindset into being an entrepreneur, and then it becomes really, really fucking tough because we're playing by a different set of rules, right? Like you were playing Monopoly one way, and now you're over here playing with all the people that are buying and upgrading hotels on their property, and you're like, what? We're buying property? Like it's just a completely different game. So I love that. Always be looking to replace the lowest performing team member. I think that's, take that one to the bank. That one's important, man. Always be looking. I always say, look to eliminate the bottom 20% of your staff,
Yeah.
and if you want a cool little quirky way to do this, go ask the lowest performing team member, whatever they do, right? Let's just say they're like, they're a service person. Uh, Go say, hey, Linda, I'm actually thinking about hiring another service person. You know anybody's looking for a job? And they're like, what? Another? Thought we were fully staffed. It's like, oh
Yeah.
shit, that could always help put them on alert. But um, talk to me, man. I want to transition a little bit from you going there into doing your own thing. Because
Yeah.
we talked about you had your 8 employees and you had your 47 agents with corporate, but then you started out the training program, and to go to 200 agencies so quick. Do you think that's like because like you already had like a name being a sales leader and being a successful agent, or like, I mean, what can you attribute to like scaling that quickly? Because that's fast growth, man.
Yeah, I think out of the gate, just like when you start scratch in as an agent, it was about the controlled business. Who do you know that you can have conversations with, and that got us off to a great start and had a ton of support and kind of name recognition in Michigan and probably parts of the Midwest. But after that, it was about putting out good content. It was about getting my message out. And I'm a big Hormozi guy. I'm actually, after we're done, hopping on a plane. I'm going to spend the next 2 days with him and his crew in Vegas. So I'm
Oh,
pumped
no
about
shit.
that.
Nice. Very
Yeah.
cool. That'll be
I was
fun.
there. Yeah, I was there a couple months ago and heading back for my next session. And so, it's about the value add. And, I've always kind of believed in that and giving away things for free. And so I'm putting out YouTube videos, newsletters to agents that are on my distribution list. I'm posting content daily that is all about personal development, growth, sales, business, and leadership. So that whether it's an agent that catches one of my videos, it's a team member that catches one of my videos, they're in insurance, they're not in insurance, they can get something out of what I'm putting out there. Because if you give enough to people at some point, and this is a Hormozi principle, they're going to want what you can give them when they, pay you money.
Yeah.
And the agents that use the system, it's been my number one tool, which I think as a business owner is a great metric to base the value of the proposition you give to the people that are paying you is how many referrals, are you getting? And over 70% of the business that I get every single month is coming through referral channels. And I was
Wow.
at an agent event last week and had my customers bringing agents to my booth and introducing them. This is Zach. He owns Ignite. You have to talk to him. And those are the things that excite me because clearly that business owner is getting value out of the service and the system. It's helping them, remove a lot of the bottlenecks and the burdens associated with training off their plate. Their team's getting what they need. And so I think it's twofold. It's word of mouth through my customers, and it's just giving value and doing free trainings, not charging anybody to be a part of them, and just trying to help people, get better. I say this to people all the time. This is a Zig Ziglarism, right? If you help enough people and focus on helping them get what they want, you're going to get everything you want in return. That was my philosophy as a sales leader with my team, because that's a role that I think can get sideways really quickly if you're focused on yourself. And I've just
Uh,
continued to live that motto. If I can help enough other people achieve their goals and get what they want, everything that I want is going to come back to me at least twofold. So.
yeah, man. I love that. I love that. Let's talk about development on your side, man. What's some books that you think are like a must read for, any young entrepreneurs or sales hustlers out there? Any recommendations on books they could pick up and learn from?
Yeah, I think, obviously, Hormozi's books are great. $100 million leads, $100 million offers. I recommend that to any business owner that's just getting started. In just gives you an idea of kind of how to present an offer that gets people to want to say yes. And then leads is how do you find those people? I think those are fun foundational principles. After that, I love Dan Martell's Buy Back Your Time and Mike
Yeah.
Michalowicz's Clockwork. Very similar but different. I always joked like when I started as an agent, my AFE gave me the E-Myth by Michael Gerber. And it
Yep.
was a great book, right? But Mike Michalowicz upgraded it when he wrote Clockwork. And this is not a knock on E-Myth. It's a phenomenal book, just more modernized. And then Dan Martell took it to the next level in terms of buying back your time, right? In terms of
Yeah.
Clockwork is building the systems and processes. And so especially as you're moving up kind of the hierarchy of needs as you grow your business, those books kind of help you level up and get to the next level. For sales pros out there, I tell everybody you need to read Fanatical Prospecting first,
Mm.
before you ever learn how to sell, because it's like, you know, uh, trying to figure out how to, play baseball without a baseball, because prospecting is how you get in front of people. And if I don't get in front of the right amount of people that are the right quality of prospect, it doesn't matter how good my sales conversation is. I'll never hit the numbers that I could hit or the numbers that I want to hit. You have to learn to hunt. You have to learn to want to find those people. So, I always start with fanatical prospecting. Then I'll layer in, I love spin selling. Neil
Mm.
Rackman is a phenomenal book. A lot of the philosophies that I have around kind of the sales process and the questions that we should be asking revolve around that book. And he talks about how most sales people in any industry are average because they only ask about circumstances or situations and obstacles. They neglect to ask the hard-hitting questions because they're uncomfortable or they've never been trained on how to do it or what to say. So they neglect impact or consequence questions and the needs, benefit, or needs payoff questions. And that's where you drive perception of value with customers. And that book does a great job of kind of illustrating that. I'm just looking around here and I've got, so I love to read books. The only other one I would throw out there for business owners out there or salespeople, because if you're a salesperson, you're your own boss. I don't care if somebody's writing your check for you. You're your own boss. Ex-
It's so
like
that
that.
dude, I'm literally we're going through the editing process right now. My book that's dropping in May called The Hunter Head Game. And my editor, I mean, she's like a PhD, like the person you would want editing a book,
Yeah.
but she's not an entrepreneur. And so she's getting confused in my book because it's all about like the hunter mentality, right? And she's like, you kind of are swapping like one paragraph, one chapter you're talking to a salesperson, the next chapter you're talking to an entrepreneur. I'm like, they're the same fucking person. She was like, well, no, like a
Hmm.
salesperson works for and I'm like, no, sweetheart, if you're gonna be a successful salesperson, you know, they recently they've come up with this word intrapreneur. I don't know if you've heard that one or
Yeah.
not, but
Yep.
it's like, you know, that it's like, yeah, it's very much true that like if you're a salesperson, you have to think like an entrepreneur because you're in charge of your own check. Like, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
up to you. Unless you're in a really shitty job. Like I've heard of salespeople like, oh no, I'm not commissioned. I'm straight sales. I'm like, you're not a salesperson then.
You're
Like
not, you're an order
salespeople get a
taker.
piece. You know,
Yeah.
salespeople get a piece, man.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I just had to add that piece in there because you know, it's I think you're right, man. Like sales and entrepreneurship go hand in hand. The
Yeah.
spin selling book is I will co-sign on that one. That's great. I want to share a quick story because you said that people a lot of times they'll have these like pleasantry conversations, but they won't have like the hard hitting ones, right? The powerful ones. This happened to me. My agent, who is my State Farm guy, it's been, you know, my listeners know back in 2016 when I started the business, I went to him after running Facebook ads for my power washing and window cleaning business, and I was like,
Yeah.
dude, you ought to do this. We did it. He's like, shit, this is cool. Like you should do this for everybody. That was in 2016, right? So like the impact was a lot greater. We're still doing a great job for these agents, but from time to time he'll have like a new team member and he'll say, hey, like why don't you come in and secret shop basically, right? Like I'm a customer but come in and have a conversation. So they did the like life update, right? Like, hey, just checking, making
Mm.
sure your beneficiaries are right and everything. So I came in, I talked to her, she got everything updated, and I got through her a ham bone. I was like, you know, I'm having a daughter, like why don't we go ahead and quote, like what would that look like? She's like, cool, no problem. What do you think her birthday will be? Blah blah blah. So like running these numbers, and she comes back and she goes, okay, Mr. Carroll, well, you know, that's we got everything updated. We changed your beneficiary over to your wife. Like everything looks good. I was like, cool, cool. Anything else you need to ask me? She's like, no, I think I'm good. I was like, you see, I owe money on my house. She was like, yeah, yeah. I see, there's a lien on the house. I was like, cool. You guys got that insured, right? She's like, yes, sir. You've got plenty of coverage on that. I was like, cool. See, I owe some money on one of the vehicles. It's a lease. She's like, yeah, yeah. I was like, okay. Do I have enough? Like, if I get hit by a bus when I walk out here, like my family's good. Like my
Mm.
wife gonna be able to pay everything off with the policies I got. She's like, oh, we should probably look at some term life to like mitigate the gap of the whole life. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, we probably should. I'm like, geez, man. I mean, like, and like customers are not going to do that. You know, they're not
No.
going to have to pull
Yeah.
that opportunity. They're going to say, thanks for updating my information, Michelle. I'm off to the races, right? And so, I think you know, a lot of times, man, agents. I'm glad that story happened because it's so relatable to agents. Where I'm like, if you're not training your team on how to pivot, how to have these conversations, to look at the fucking computer and say, hey,
Yeah.
you know, loan is X, whole life policies are Y, like Z ain't happening, right?
Yep.
And mitigate that gap. Talk to me about that, man, because I'm sure you see that probably
Yeah.
when you're working with team members as well.
Yeah. All the time. And I think, you know, it comes down to fear. And
Uh,
when I'm talking to or coaching team members or agents, especially around the life insurance product, because people will run laps around property and casualty P&C all day, you know.
yeah.
But when we talk about life insurance, and then there's a fear associated with it. I think that the fear around life insurance is twofold. It's they feel like they're going to do something wrong for the customer. It's going to be the wrong type of policy. It's going to be the wrong amount. And this is what I tell people: you can never do anything wrong if you're focusing on what the customer wants when that moment comes, right? I mean, it's the only guarantee we have in the insurance industry is at some point you're going to die.
Yeah.
And the fear is misplaced because my fear and what I try to instill in my team and what I try to instill in the people that I get the chance to work with is what's scarier? Um, them saying no or buying life insurance and changing it down the road, or you not asking and them dying without it. You
Yeah.
know, I call it the insurance professionals manifesto, and I bring it up in every one of my live events that I'll do, and I start with it on the screen, and I say the minute you pass a licensing exam, you have a moral obligation, a duty, and a responsibility to help every customer you talk with understand all of the risks, the options that you have to help them, so that they can make an informed decision about how they want to protect what's important to them. If they choose the worst coverage in you know liability only and leave themselves at risk, that's their choice. But we should never make that decision for them. And so fear is a big motivator there, and that's where training comes into play, and it's about repetition. It's about role playing and practicing, and it's about ownership of that fear. I told my team, I have your back 100% of the time in everything that you do, except for one scenario. If somebody passes away and you didn't ask about life insurance, and their husband or wife passes away, I'm not having that conversation. You are. And there's a reason why. You'll never miss again. And
Yeah.
if I do
No
it
kidding.
for you, I've taken that opportunity away from you to never ever miss again, because I fortunately was never in that position. But I know people that have I had those conversations, and they lose sleep over it. I'll never forget this. When I was considering being a sales leader, I went around. We used to have an FSA, which was basically a financial services associate that would go in and like work with agents to help them sell more financial services. And so this gentleman, I met him up in the thumb area. And we're going around, and he was telling me going in, this is the sixth or seventh time that I've been in this agent's office to try to help them to sell more financial services, and nothing has worked. So I'm going to do something I've never done today. I said, okay. And he said, I'm going to tell him my story. And I said, okay. And he's like, I'm not going to tell you now, but that's what the plan is. So we go in there, and this agent is, I think at the time, 35, 40 years in the business. And this gentleman sits down, and they go back and forth, and the excuses start coming out. Why I haven't done anything that I was going to do, why I haven't gotten to it yet, and why we're not doing, the process. And so he goes, you know what? I'm going to just stop you right there. And I want to be honest with you. And he said, I don't tell this story very often, but when I grew up, our PNC agent, he didn't say State Farm or Farmers or Allstate. He said, our auto insurance agent, my mom was single. She was raising me and my brother. He took the time to ask my mom about life insurance and making sure that me and my brother were okay. And she never expected to have to ever use it, that we would never get that money, but unfortunately we did. We lost my mom, and I was able to go to college. My brother was able to go to college. We were able to get to where we are, and not ever have to want for anything. We didn't struggle. And I owe that conversation to me sitting across this desk from you. And what I want to ask you honestly is, if my mom had had the same conversation with you, what would my life look like today? And I was like, oh my. And I mean, I was just like, wow. And you could see, this gentleman in his late 50s, early 60s was tearing up because he knew the answer.
Yeah.
And I don't know how that changed. He wasn't in my territory, but I just sat there and thought about that. And I've told that story so many times because it hits you where life insurance needs to hit you. It's an emotional product. And
Right.
that story just, it resonated with me. And for that person to be that vulnerable in an attempt to try to get that person to help his customers was just amazing to watch. So,
Yeah, man, that's powerful stuff. Um, phew, I tell you, like life insurance, if you have a client pass away, like it should be the easiest thing to sell. Like, you know what I mean? You need one
yeah.
story, dude. And that's the thing about it is it's so powerful. And that, I mean, it's a prime example that stories sell as well, right? Like
Hmm.
it's not just life insurance. Like maybe right now you're listening, you're like, dude, I've got a plumbing business. How the fuck does this, how can I take this to the bank? You can take it to the bank because you've got a story as well, right? Like you've got a story to where, somebody didn't enact on your services, didn't enact on your products, and it ended up hurting them more in the long run. That's the premise of the life insurance story, right? It's just a lot easier to sell with life insurance because people are dying, right? That's the
Yeah.
side effect of it. What's that saying? This life is a serious game. Nobody makes it out alive. And it's so true, man. It's so true.
Yeah.
Dude, this is killer. Golly, we're packing it in here. Okay, so now that you said this, I'm gonna be a little selfish here. A little Coach Carroll's gonna be a little selfish. I want to know, man, what was your biggest takeaways from? You said you've been out to Vegas to Hormozi's event once
Yeah.
already, right? So, like, I want to know some takeaways in your business. What were some aha moments that you had there? Because some of my favorite podcasts that I do, I get to actually learn. One of the guys I had on
Yeah.
earlier today, Steve Miller, not the Steve Miller band, but like the guy's like he's I mean super successful speaker and stuff. He's been on TED Talks, like the actual TED, not TEDx, and like he was talking all about like branding and marketing and stealing ideas and stuff. And we got done. He was like, dude, I'm sorry. I felt like I talked over you a lot. You didn't really say a bunch. I was like, dude, I was learning. I was like, it was a master
Mm.
class, not a podcast. So, as we wrap this thing up here, like, what are some takeaways that you can share with us that you've learned? Because I love that you're investing in yourself, right? I always
Yeah,
say never hire a coach that doesn't have coaches, right? Because like you need to have a coach that
100%.
has coaches that's always learning. I think that's one of the most beautiful, powerful things about being a human being, right? Is that we can always learn and improve, and we're the only creature on this planet that can set goals and then manifest these and put it out to the universe, and the universe will work for you, not against you, to help you achieve them. So, if you wouldn't mind, if it's okay, Zach, to
Yeah.
take a few minutes, share with us like maybe some of the big takeaways that you got from the first time out there, hanging out with Hormozi and that crew.
Yeah, first of all, I would tell you, what they do is amazing for business owners, right? I mean, they bring you out there, yeah, you pay to be there, but they literally bring their entire portfolio team and they spend an entire 2 days with you. The entire day is downloading information on you. The second day is roundtable discussions where you get to ask your questions. And the biggest takeaway for me out of the entire thing was as a business owner, especially when you're new, but it happens, regardless of tenure, we get focused on the things that we're good at and that we enjoy doing. And a lot of
Ooh,
times that is not the bottleneck, or as Alex would call it, the constraint of your business. And so what, the whole workshop is about, and what we're going back now to solve. Step one is finding your constraint. What is the biggest constraint that, if we remove it from your business, allows you to grow to the next level? Because the whole thing he talks about is the system of constraints, where once you remove one, you can grow another level, and then it's a new constraint. And so it's this constant process of identifying what's the biggest thing that's holding your business back. And initially, a lot of times, it's probably marketing, it's probably sales, it's probably getting in front of people. And that was where I was at. I needed to adjust some things to get in front of people. I was putting out content. I was doing, enough to say that I was present. But my takeaway from that was blow it up, throw out as much value as you can. Instead of one post a day, it's now 5 or 6 across all of the social media channels. My email marketing is adjusted. Instead of sales emails, it's value, like I mentioned, a YouTube video, a newsletter, and those free trainings. I started to do that. And I kid you not, this was in November. I haven't even gone back and gotten their plan. They're going to talk through with me, but I made those adjustments based off of that meeting. My social media following is growing. My meetings have grown, and I had my best production month since my first month, which again was very much controlled, in December, and that has continued into January. And I owe it to that. Stop worrying about this stuff. That's not your problem. You need to get in front of enough people. And as a sales trainer, it was a harsh reality for me to hear, because I tell people all the time, if your conversion ratio is really, really good, you're probably not getting in front of enough people. And
yeah,
I was out there touting the close rate that I had, and well, how many people are you meeting with? And I told them, and I go, that's your problem.
yeah,
But it's so simple for them to diagnose it, and that was the takeaway. And
wow,
because I was spending time on, again, things that were important. I was not practicing what I preach and that I enjoy doing, and avoiding maybe some of the things that I don't enjoy, and having to do the things that I don't enjoy doing, if that's the constraint of the
yeah.
business. So
Wow, that's good stuff, man. Drop that one to the bank. The when you said the idea of getting out there, I tell small business owners all the time that they think they have like 50 million problems in their business, and every once in a while, like I'm wrong on this, so I hate like painting with a broad brush, but 95.6% of the time, I would say that most small businesses' problems are there isn't enough people who know who you are and what you're selling. Like that's it. Because
yeah,
a lot of the problems you have in your business, they'll go away if you throw money at them, right? You can buy stuff that will fix it. You can hire people to fix it. You just don't have that money, right? And so then if you fix the like,
hmm,
hey, people don't know who you are, they don't know what you're selling. Oh, okay, cool. Now that they do, guess what? They start giving you fucking money. Now your money goes and solves those
yeah,
problems, right? So that's cool. The idea with that, we realized this last year, I was doing webinars, and I follow the uh, Russell Brunson perfect webinar
Yep.
method. And so, and I've had people go, man, you're really good at that webinar thing. And I'm like, dude, my first webinar was in 2016. Like, yeah, I've been doing them all. There's for every
Yeah.
good webinar I've done, there's 60 that were shit and nobody bought anything from, right? But like my team and I realized, like, we tried, and this is why I love doing these podcasts, because like I don't mind being vulnerable and saying where I fucked up, because I think
100%.
one, it helps somebody out there listening right now, but also it gains me a lot of respect with my listeners. We tried like a Costa Rica call center and like spent 10 grand, lit it on fire. It didn't fucking work, right? Like we were trying all these things, building our sales team. And I said, hey, hold on a second. We picked up 350 new clients last year off of webinars that I did and sold at the end of, right? How about next year? We just do a fuck ton of those and like forget everything else. And my team's like, God, that kind of is cool. It makes sense. And so then, like, I think that's what Hormozi's saying is like,
Yep.
cool. That's the constraint. Now we just got to figure out, how do we do a fuck ton of those, right? And so like
Yep.
our team's working through that. We don't have it completely solved. We're using some of our stuff that we have in house and that we do for clients, and it's kind of go direct to consumer. But that was cool, man. Get focused. We get too focused. You said we get too focused on the things we enjoy doing or are good at. And so, yeah, like if you're a super operational person, you may go like
Yeah.
hide in operations. And then it's like, oh, we didn't get any new customers. It's like, yeah, because you're focused on operations. And so
Yep.
I also love the fact that like Mark Smith, my State Farm agent, who's one of my very first mentors, still a mentor to this day, he said, DJ, remember this: in business, nothing happens until a sale is made. And I was like,
100%.
whoa, like that. I mean, dude, that was one of the first things he gave me, one of the first nuggets, and it's stuck with me all these years. And it's so true. Uh, Zach, dude, I appreciate you sharing that with us. Thank you so much. We'll have to definitely have you back on to see what you
Yeah, I'd
learned
love to.
from the second go around. I had a guy, an agent on last year that went to like a Goldman Sachs training thing, and I was like, hey, you want to be on my podcast? He's like, I mean, I guess I'm just an Allstate agent. I was like, no, you went to that recent training. I want to know what you learned there, and come share it with my
Yeah.
audience. So that's cool, man. How can people, as we wrap it up here, how can people find you online? I know you said you do a lot of free trainings. You got a lot of resources out there and stuff. How can they find you online?
Yeah, so very active on social. You can follow me, nothing complicated. It's at Zach Sabin. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, on YouTube. You can follow me on TikTok if we keep it after the next 75 days. And you can go to the website if you're interested in learning more about how we help teams train across the country. It's www.igniteagencytraining.com. But if nothing else, follow me on social because I'm trying to give as much value as I can every day. Whether you're an insurance agent, a plumber, to your point earlier, doesn't matter what business you're in, the principles are the same. It ultimately comes down to our ability to take those things and apply it and execute.
Yeah, I love it, man. We'll plug all that in the show notes down below. If you're listening to this on one of the audio platforms, be sure to check the video out on YouTube, but you also just go to coachcarroll.com/podcast. It's got all the Sales Factory episodes there. You can see the full show notes and everything that we talked about today. Zach, dude, I appreciate it. This has been a fun one. It was too fast. That was a quick 47 minutes. So
It flies by.
I love it, man. Well, safe travels. Guys, make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the like, smash it, share it, tell your dog about it, your kids, your friends, your family, everybody. We got something for everybody in the Sales Factory. Until next time, I'm Coach Carroll. Hustle, it's worth it.